obviously came into the year thinking they were the best team in the Eastern Conference. I can't imagine a 9-1 start to their season has shaken your confidence in that whatsoever, or even the 8-2 start by the Cleveland Cavaliers. I can't imagine that has shaken your confidence in the Milwaukee Bucks whatsoever. Can they set history this year? Is that a realistic things that fans can potentially look forward to?
Well, so the Bucks play the Thunder and the Spurs this week, so they theoretically should be at least 11-1, perhaps, by the time this video comes out. But yeah, damn, they lost to the Hawks without Trae Young. That puts a little damper on the perfect video season. They didn't have Chris Middleton, but still, like, losing to the Hawks without Trae Young is a little bit rough. But even still, Milwaukee's been really great this year, and currently, they have the number 4 offense in the NBA and the number 1 defense in the league. That is pretty incredible, even granted it being a small sample size at this point. There was one point early in the season, and I'm sure this has changed now over the last 2 or 3 games, but as of last week, Giannis was averaging more points in the second half than players such as Luka Doncic and Paul George were averaging for the entire season. Up to that point, he was averaging 24 points a game to start the season in the second half, while also on his way to probably a Defensive Player of the Year award early on in the season. There's a lot to play still, but early on, he's been the best defensive player in the league. Milwaukee has been totally overwhelming so far this year. And to your point about history, it's not going to be 73 wins because sometimes you just lose to the Hawks without Trae Young. So it's not going to be 73 wins, but best record in the NBA, very easily within their grasp. A franchise record technically would be 67 wins if you want to go back to the 1971 season. But if we're talking about modern Bucks history, if you want to go back to the Giannis team from 2020, they won 60 games prior to the COVID season kind of neutering things. They were on pace to win like 64 games that year. I think this team could get close to that. 67 is a bit of a lofty goal, but as long as they get the number 1 seed in the East, I think that is the goal that Milwaukee is shooting for at this point. And I think they will get there pretty firmly, even if it's not 67 wins. I think it's going to be somewhere in the 60s.
Now, I know that we go back and forth all the time on championship culture. I can't help but feel as an important year for Giannis, particularly if the Bucks are fully healthy, because we think of Giannis almost as the new iteration of LeBron James, or this generation's LeBron James, the best player. He is the best player. I'm not going to argue that. He's the best player in the world. I thought that he should have won MVP last year. I think that Jokic is great and everything, but if Giannis legitimately made strides at every statistical category from the point that he won MVP, my argument was that he should have been MVP last year, because you already told me that he was MVP a couple of years ago with worse numbers. When he has better numbers, shouldn't that result in a MVP season? That's neither here nor there. That's last year. Let's talk about this year. I think that this is an important year for the Bucks, because while you do have the best player in the world, multiple championships is not an unreasonable expectation. That is, in fact, should be the standard. We saw too often that LeBron and those Cavs teams and the Miami Heat teams in the Eastern Conference, obviously the 10 straight finals appearances is something ungodly, something that we will never see again in our lifetime. But we should expect that to almost be something that Giannis should be able to do, in theory, rise above the Eastern Conference, because you do have an improved East. It's not the East of LeBron's time. It is a much improved East. When we talk about the 76ers, we talk about the Celtics. I'm looking at this Cleveland team. I don't look at this Cleveland team as a joke. They're actually really good. Any of those teams could win the Eastern Conference. But the Bucks, while you have the best player in the world, you just kind of expect him to rise above those lesser foes from time to time. How important do you think it is for Giannis to at least make it to the finals? I'm not even saying win the championship, but at least win the Eastern Conference this year.
Well, it's interesting also because Chris Middleton's a free agent after this season, which is an interesting situation the Bucks find themselves in.
So that kind of increases the urgency.
I would, as long as Giannis wants to stay in Milwaukee, then absolutely. I mean, the thing that will separate him is that he chose to stay in Milwaukee for his prime, which is kind of the thing that happens with basketball based on when you enter the league, is that for your physical prime, stars usually get to pick the place that they go to. I remember a couple of years ago, I said there was a 0% chance that Giannis would return to Milwaukee, not knowing anything about Giannis personally, just thinking it made more basketball sense to go join another team. And Giannis is still in his prime, but we're coming up on the back end of his physical prime, which is roughly 24 to 29 at this point. He's 27. He's going to turn 28 soon. We're coming up on the end of Giannis's physical prime. This is now 4 seasons since the last time he won MVP for the first time. So he still will be a very, very good basketball player. It just won't be the best basketball Giannis is going to play. But that doesn't mean he's not going to like be competitive every year. LeBron's best basketball ended in 2013, but LeBron James was still an absolutely incredible basketball player in Cleveland.
Listen, Miami, LeBron was awesome, but no, come on. That 2018 Cavs run was something insane.
Oh, it was incredible. And that's not to say that Giannis can't have incredible moments like that. I'm saying statistically, the case is made that the best sustained period of his career was in his mid-20s. And that's the case for most basketball players. It's when they win MVPs. It's when their teams are competing for championships at the best level. It's usually a tried and true rule. It's not always a guarantee. Some people age quite gracefully. They can still be the best basketball player in the world, like some argued LeBron was in 2016. But 2016 LeBron was not as good as 2012 LeBron. The point is, sidetracking, Giannis is entering the back ends of that. And to your point about championships, people will point to the macro of like one championship appearance, one win. But if you look at each of the seasons, it's explainable why the Bucks lost in the games that they did. So you can point to the year of 2019 where they were the 1 seed. They were up 2-0, just got beat by Kawhi. Kawhi was a better player than Giannis. Kawhi not only scored 28 points a game in that series, also held Giannis to 20 points a game in the final 4 games. They swept him out after going down 0-2. The year after that, losing the bubble to Miami, Giannis got hurt in game 3 of that series. Now, were they already down 2-0? That's correct. But Giannis did go out in game 3 and miss the rest of the series. And then you could point to last year with the Celtics. We've talked about it a lot before. Middleton being out, the series going 7 games. We've had a lot of back and forth about that conversation. Each of those 3 seasons, the team that beat them went on to win the Eastern Conference. And in the case of Toronto, win the championship. So there are extraneous circumstances that explain why the Bucks haven't gotten to that point. If they're the number 1 seed this year, I said they were the best team in the league coming into the season. Number 1 seed would only validate that point. They should expect to win a championship this season with Giannis Antetokounmpo in his prime. Despite as long as they are healthy, they have put a roster that is good enough to win a championship around prime Giannis, which only requires a certain level of organizational competence, but the Bucks have provided that competence.
I'm impressed. I never really see you too often like put the championship expectation on a team, even a team that expects a championship with the best player in the world. And I think it's right. Anytime you have the best player in the world, you should set that standard. We have to set standards sometimes. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks are in their right mind to do that, especially like you said, if this is their last opportunity to really have the full complement of weapons around Giannis to have this rightful construction that they had. I mean, every team's going to have its lapses. They're going to have their games that they lose to the Hawks. So we go back to, can they set history? That's a tough question. It's a long season. A lot can happen. We talked about health with this team, going back to last year's playoff run. If you told me Giannis, you even missed time too, from not a significant amount, but he's missed time in his career. Chris Middleton has missed time in his career. That could derail a record-breaking season like we're even talking about here in the season's early going. But as long as they're healthy for the championship, I mean, I'm looking through, 7-game series. Yeah, I mean, they obviously should be able to beat a young Cleveland team that I think is in the right direction, but they have holes. Donovan Mitchell's been playing better defense, but I still look at Donovan Mitchell as a subpar defender. I wonder how that's going to play as we get into championship basketball. The Celtics don't have their head coach. The Celtics still have that issue behind them. They're 7-3 now, but I don't know. We'll see. They had a very impressive win this past evening Going around the East, the 76ers.
I think Miami is the next team. Miami's probably the next team in that group. And I know they've had a really bad start to the season, but I do think Miami is probably the next team we think of in that group trying to take down the Bucks. If not the Bucks and Celtics at the top, I would think Miami and Cleveland are in that next group.
Sure. I mean, you can throw the 76ers in there because we think that Embiid is still an MVP level player. And anytime you have an MVP player on your team, you have a chance. And we'll see what they can get, if anything, out of James Harden. I know he's going to miss a month. I don't know how he's going to come back. I don't know if James Harden's ever really going to be James Harden again. And hell, this Hawks team is actually starting off really hot. You mentioned the Hawks team that just beat them. I mean, the Hawks added to their roster. So there was at least improvements by this Hawks team. Mm-hmm. And will they match up? Are they a team that at least, styles make fights? Can they match up well against this Milwaukee Bucks? We'll see. Maybe we just need to get more data, see how good this Hawks team really is, see how good the Celtics are, see how good without Ime Udoka, see how good the Cavaliers are, really, because I think they have the pieces. We talked about the Cavaliers. I think they have the pieces. If Donovan Mitchell's for real and this defense is here to stay, then yeah, the Cavaliers can absolutely beat the Bucks in a best of 7 series, but the Bucks should obviously be favored in that best of 7 series. That's the thing. I'm saying they can, not saying they will. Vegas betting line at open would be in the Bucks' favor, but you could put money on the Cavaliers and it would not be a crazy bet.
I like that you're going in on Cleveland, like in an Eastern Conference where after the Bucks and Celtics, it feels like there's a little bit of a drop off. I like that you're banking on Cleveland.
Listen, Cleveland has beaten the Celtics twice, and in impressive fashion. The first time around, they had 2 players put up over 40 points, and then the second time around, I know it was an overtime thriller, but it shows you the Cavaliers are for real. They, defensively, offensively, Donovan Mitchell was the right piece. Credit to that organization for having the cojones to make that trade. Cleveland's for real. The Celtics, I think, are still a threat, and the Bucks, absolutely 100% for real. Anyway, guys, the Bucks, obviously, great start to the season. Not perfect anymore, but no team goes 84-0, so we expect they're going to have some losses. Let us know how you think that this season is going to turn out for them. Do you think they'll finish as the number 1 seed, or do you think we're going to get some surprises over the course of the season? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our social medias, and stay safe, happy, and healthy. From Ju-Ju and Kyle, we will see you next time.